What's going on, everyone? My name is Shiraz. I'm the CEO of Suits Realty here in New York City. We're a real estate firm helping you rent, buy, and sell your real estate property. Let's talk about seller's concession today and how you can leverage that as a buyer in today's market. So, a seller's concession just means that the seller is paying a portion of your closing costs during the sale process. How do you get a seller's concession? There's two ways. First way is, let's say the house is selling for $1 million. You offer $1 million, but you also write into your offer, hey, part of the $1 million, Mr. Seller, I would like you to pay my closing costs. Typically, that's around 6% here in New York City. So 6% of a million is 60,000. So you would say, hey, the $1 million I'm giving you, it includes you paying my closing costs up to $60,000. So the seller will technically net 940,000. Now, in this process, you as the buyer are going to be responsible for the closing costs associated with the seller's concession, which is just a few $100s. So that trade-off between the seller's concession of getting 60,000 and paying a few hundred for the closing on it is irrelevant. It's just it's a great benefit for you. So this way, if you're doing an FHA loan, for instance, and you're doing 3.5 down on $1 million, that's only $35,000. So when you're purchasing, instead of coming up with 60,000 for closing and another 35,000 for down payment, which is 95 in total, this way you're only going in with 35,000. So do know that it's going to increase your mortgage payment. It might increase the rate a little bit. It all depends on your lender and all depends on what they're going to be offering you. However, the seller's concessions should massively benefit you in terms of helping you with out-of-pocket costs. Now, the second way to get a seller's concession is the house is listed for $1 million. You negotiate the price down to 950 and the seller agrees to the 950. Then you can go to the seller and say, hey, I'm still willing to offer you the million. However, since you were willing to take 950, why don't you give me the other 50,000 as the seller's concession so that it can help pay for my closing costs? Now, typically sellers should say okay to this. If it's a greedy seller, they're going to say, oh, you're willing to go to $1 million, then no, I want the full million. But this is a second way to negotiate the seller's concession is first you negotiate the net with the seller, what they're going to put in their pocket. And then whatever they had it listed for, you can kind of work that into it, a seller's concession. Work with your lender. They'll tell you what the caps are because banks do have limits on how much of a seller's concession you can take, 3%, 6%, whatever it is. So work with your lender, understand the terms of your mortgage and what you're allowed to do before you negotiate these terms, and you bring it to the table, and then your bank says, no, you can't get this. You're going to have to take a less seller's concession. Or, hey, you missed money. You could have taken more seller's concession. So you don't want to be on that spectrum, so make sure you are well aware of your financing terms. Now, the seller's concession is contingent on the appraisal. So if you're buying the house for $1 million and you have a $60,000 seller's concession built into the contract, that appraiser that's going to go out to value the home once you're in contract is going to see that because they have a copy of the contract. They see that you are getting a seller's concession for $60,000. So you have to make sure when you are offering on the property that you're purchasing that property is worth $1 million. That means within the last 3 to 6 months, there has to be similar properties sold at $1 million or more, or right around the million is fine, like 990, 995, $1,010,000, right around those prices. This way, the appraiser has proof that, hey, this property that they're purchasing is worth $1 million, which then will be sufficient to give you the seller's concession of $60,000. However, if the appraiser comes back and says, no, this property is only worth $975, 950, 980, anything below that million, your seller's concession, either it's going to start getting cut or you're going to lose the entire thing and you're going to have to come out of pocket for the closing costs. So that's very important to understand. Seller's concession as a buyer is not just reliant on you negotiating it in the beginning. It's also based off of the caps that the banks will allow you to do, depending on your financing terms, as well as the appraiser. But once you get past these points in your mortgage process, you're in the clear after that. So if all of these check out, then you got the seller's concession, you can move on to your closing, you can finish up your doc work, and then you can go ahead and close on the property. So I hope that video explains seller's concession to you and what it means and how to obtain it. If you like that video, check out my other video about house hacking. If this is your first time buying a house and you're just doing some research, that video can actually help you on how you can purchase your first property and work your way up to a nice bigger property, and how you can leverage the seller's concession with this. The information I've provided you in this video with that video should help you along your way. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.